Onwards with today's summit. Our second session now tackles the glass ceiling and diversity within the industry. We shall be hearing from Lothian buses and from Lothian community transport, but first we have a very special Women in Bus and Coach launch. So to tell you all about that, I shall leave it to Stephen Lynn, Marketing Director for TRL, and from Women in Bus and Coach, I shall welcome back Kerri Cheek.
Hi everyone, Stephen Lynn as well here. So we're very pleased to be able to make this announcement to everyone here. In fact, we're actually thrilled to be able to announce the launch of our newest campaign, which is the Women in Bus and Coach Blue Plaque Scheme. So this scheme seeks to highlight and celebrate the remarkable contribution of women in the bus, coach and community transport profession, both today and throughout our beloved transport heritage. Sadly, women are often missing from written and celebrated history. It's been suggested by Dr. Bethany Hughes from English Heritage that only around 0.5%, we don't, not even 1%, 0.5% of recorded history features women. It is that low. So unfortunately, it is no different in our profession, where women's contributions are also less likely to be noted historically. So Women in Bus and Coach are committed to redressing this narrative and bringing more balance to our history.
So we were really proud to launch this initiative last week in Winchester, where we unveiled our first blue plaque to honour a true trailblazer, Mary Currie. Mary is here with us today. Mary, I'd love you to stand up. And this is Mary opening the plaque last week in Winchester bus station. So, fantastic. So Mary first drove a bus for Hanson Dorset in 1973, which is absolutely amazing. And we're really honoured to have the BBC at the launch. And so Mary was all over BBC yesterday, and rightly so, because absolute superhero. Thank you so much. But there's amazing trailblazers all over the country, and we're really delighted that our second blue plaque will be awarded in honour of Jill Viner, who became the first woman London bus driver in 1974. Unfortunately, she has passed, but we're really honoured that we'll be putting her plaque at the Kingston bus station when it reopens later in the month. Also, we're really delighted to announce that we're working with London Transport. So we will have a display at the London Transport Museum at some point in the not too distant future. So we're really delighted about that. We do have a long list of future recipients that we're really excited about sharing in the months and years ahead. But we are always looking for nominees across the coach and the community transport and bus sector. So if you think of any worthy superheroes like Mary, please do let us know, because we'd love to honour them with a plaque. So yeah, please do give us a shout. Thank you very much, Mary. Thanks for being a trailblazer. Cheers.
And we'll put Jill's plaque out just outside the room, so if you'd like to see it up close and personal, you can have a look during the break. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerri. Thank you, Stephen. Our next speaker has had a busy week. Just 3 days ago, she was collecting the award for Bus Operator of the Year. But she's here today to share her insight into how she's developing her business to ensure a diverse workforce. Please welcome Lothian Buses Managing Director, Sarah Boyd.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much to Women in Bus and Coach for inviting me to speak today. I'm delighted to be part of this session with the theme of glass ceiling and diversity, and to get the chance to share with you a little of the Lothian story. So, what am I going to talk about today? I've got a few slides just to give an initial introduction and an insight into who I am, what I do, and what we're trying to achieve at Lothian. So I'm going to talk just a bit about my career path background, what inspires me, just briefly, who Lothian is and what our values are, and what we're doing to promote diversity within our business and the wider transport industry. My husband and I were debating the other day the first words of our 3 daughters, which were a combination of mummy, daddy, and one another's names not quite pronounced properly. Not a word of a lie, and the older I get, the more this feels really weird for me. My first word was bus, genuinely. Now, I'm quite a philosophical person. I do believe that what's meant for you doesn't pass you by. And so the story for me goes that I was given a toy London bus as a baby, and like nothing better than to ram it into the skirting boards in my parents' house. And you can still see the damage. That's it there. It sits in my office now. My parents also kept it, very strangely. And I think actually, given that I didn't have any desire to work in transport until I was in my early 20s, I think really this can only be described as my destiny. And I often get asked my story and how I came to be in the industry. And if I'm truly honest, it's a by accident, not design thing for me. My degree is in maths and finance, and I always thought that I would go down that financial route. Anyone who knows me knows how much I love a plan and a spreadsheet. But it wasn't for me, and the universe intervened once again. In my 4th year at university, juggling studying and working part-time, I came across an advert for Stagecoach. And the rest is history. So I joined Stagecoach in 2002, spent 11 years there before joining Lothian in 2013. And I've been the company's managing director for the last 2 years. I think my background in operations has served me well to better understand some of the complexities that we face in our industry, particularly when it comes to diversity. I've been fortunate to work with lots of people over the years from whom I've learned, and that's meant that I've observed and experienced many different styles of management and leadership, some easier than others, it has to be said. I do think that you get as much from the people that you don't want to be like as the ones that you do. And that's given me the experience and the ability to lead Lothian through what I think we'll look back on as a key time for public transport. One of our main priorities as an industry must be to show how adept we are at reacting to change. I strongly believe that that includes the change that affects the people who work with us, as well as the people that we're delivering for. And if I'm asked what drives me, I think it's that the opportunity, I think, to make things better and better for everyone connected to Lothian. So whether that's our culture internally or our customer offering externally, at the end of the day, I see it all as interconnected. I think for things to be right on the outside of any organisation, they have to first be right on the inside. And so I'm passionate about self-development, about learning. One of the key things we've introduced into Lothian most recently is a robust management development programme. And I believe that it's important to give people the space, the support, and the right environment to develop and grow. And so there's lots of attributes to this. For me, there are 2 fundamentals that have to be present. Those are knowledge, which I think is only powerful if it's properly shared and levelled. And the other one is opportunity. And I think it's really important to create opportunities for people that open their minds to possibility. You don't know what you don't know. And so Lothian's journey to greater diversity is still in its early days, so there's no doubt that we've still got a lot of work to do. But before I talk just a little bit about what we are doing, I'm just going to set the scene on who we are. So you can see all the different brands in the Lothian group up there. There's a huge breadth to our business. We're the main bus operator across Edinburgh and the Lothians. We have involvement in the tourist market through Edinburgh bus tours and Lothian motor coaches. And we run city bus services, a few rural services, tour buses and coaches right throughout Edinburgh and the Lothian region. If we start to get inside the company a little bit, so these key stats represent a high-level state of the nation. We operate from 8 different depots across Edinburgh. Our wider fleet profile consists of more than 700 vehicles, comprising now of different vehicle and fuel types. And we carry over 110 million people every year. And nothing that you'll hear me talk about today is possible without our team, which now totals 2,656 people as of Friday's payroll. I always say that we have all of the benefits of family at Lothian, but only some of the dysfunctions. Joking aside, that number includes people qualified across so many disciplines. So yes, we have drivers and engineers, as you'd expect, but because we're covering the role of both local operating company and kind of group head office, if you like, we're both operational and strategic, and so have a range of other professionally qualified people, accountants, network planners, HR people, health and safety. You get the idea. We need a lot of specialist and technical skill to run the organisation successfully. Of course, for any business to be successful, there has to be a plan and there has to be a shared common purpose, I think. And that's even more important when you think about where we were not that long ago. Like so many transport operators, Lothian was hit really badly by the pandemic. Passenger numbers plummeting to just 10% of what they were. And so the last few years have been critical as we've rebuilt our business and our network back to 93% of our previous numbers. And everything in our plan aligned to the 3 strategic objectives that you see there. Essentially, these are the values that represent everything that Lothian stands for. To be resilient and reliable, safe and sustainable, and trusted and valued. And why are these our priorities? So that we can deliver a reliable, affordable network generating passenger growth, to be commercially sustainable, to deliver our net zero ambitions, and for all of that to be a service that's inclusive and accessible for everyone. So how do we deliver those things? Well, looking from the inside out, I think it's also helpful for me to share a little with you about our worth. When I describe Lothian's worth and our value, I define it broadly speaking into the 3 categories that you can see there. So first of all, economic. There's still a common misconception that Lothian's publicly funded, and the reality is that the opposite is true. Actually, more than 97% of our revenue comes directly from passenger journeys. And one of the biggest economic contributions Lothian makes is the cross-subsidy nature of our network. We're able to take a holistic view, provide services that don't always stack up commercially, and those services are then supported by others that do make a contribution. And there's actually more than £4 million of cost to the Lothian business that would ordinarily be borne by the local authorities. The next thing is social value, and that's one of the truly special things that it can be difficult to put into words. I always say that we're part of the fabric and fixtures and fittings, if you like, of the city. And so our social value includes everything from our dedicated accessibility platform, partnership with Police Scotland, employee-led charity partnerships. But it's also all the unsung hero and hidden in plain sight stories that everyone has if you travel by bus, if you travel by public transport. And so we're striving to go above and beyond. And so many of our people, one of our lovely drivers, CK, is with me today, so many of our people feel really passionately about the service that we provide. And of course, we're always looking for new things. In a first for the transport industry, we recently announced our partnership with StrutSafe, so a volunteer-led telephone line in place to provide additional support to those travelling alone. And while StrutSafe will help anyone that phones them, their focus is on women and girls and making that journey from door to door a positive one for everyone. And the final part of our value is our environmental agenda. We're acutely aware of the effects our business has on the environment and on the communities that we serve, and in turn of our responsibilities to playing our part in achieving local and national government climate change targets. Last year we launched our Net Zero 2035 strategy, taking us on the journey to decarbonisation. And just a few weeks ago, the first 11 of 50 electric buses that make up our 2024 delivery schedule went into service. So hopefully by now you've got a bit of a sense of Lothian and our culture. And before I talk about some of the specifics, here's our numbers. So straight away, you can see there's a real variance. We excel at a senior level, but there's still just 10% of our total workforce that identify as women. And that's what I was referring to when I said that we still have work to do to improve our gender balance. Although I think we are now on the right path, now that more and more of the decision makers in our world are diverse. So what have we been doing? Well, just over a year ago, we set up a working group of women from across the organisation to come together to deliver initiatives and to share ideas. And we know the group's purpose is twofold. It's to make Lothian a better place for women, whether that's existing employees or potential. And we deliberately don't have too fixed an agenda. I don't make any apologies for this. I don't want us to be too prescriptive. I'd much rather that we have a group that can come up with ideas and we can try them. Some will take off and others will be learning experiences, but all will be worthwhile doing. I mentioned Strut Safe just there. You can see the picture of the launch there. And this collaboration was an idea that was born in the group. Strut Safe are actually, they originated in Edinburgh. And so 6 months after that first discussion, it's a reality for us. Such a simple concept. They're such a brilliant organisation themselves, but they're so effective. And since we announced a couple of months ago, we've actually had 7 other transport operators approach Strut Safe to discuss partnering them. Another idea that we've tried earlier this year was to invite groups of girls from schools across Edinburgh to come and tour one of our depots and hear all about our engineering apprenticeship scheme. Our engineering team tend to be homegrown talent, so if there's a female depot engineer of the future, she's probably sitting in a school in Edinburgh right now. And we've had some superb female apprentices over the years, but they tend to have relatives already working in the company. So I really want us to find ways to cast our net much wider and to get into the minds of young people that a career at Lothian is truly worth considering. I'm going to finish up just with a little on some of the other things that we've done to enhance our overall employment offering. And many of the benefits that you can see here are the culmination of months of consultation and consideration and trials and learning, and that is indicative of the way that we do things. And I'm not going to go through them all, but a few worthy of highlighting. So first of all, My Lothian. We've built a digital platform now to house all of our information. So whether that's risk assessments, processes, lunch menus, access to internal comms, it's all there, and it's there for everybody. It's been such a leveler giving people the opportunity to access that kind of information. And our next step is to build it into an app so it's even more, accessible. And beyond that, we've introduced new health initiatives for both physical and mental well-being, as well as introducing a menopause working group and policy. And I think the overall package is of huge importance as we strive to attract and to retain the very best of talent, to grow the number of women that work in our organisation, and to give everyone the space to really be themselves. And so just to finish up, I think fair to say, like so many others in this room, we are also on a journey to promote our industry to women as a great career opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Now on to Lothian community transport. So to shed a light on women in community transport and the challenges faced in this sector in creating a more diverse workforce, please welcome the CEO of Lothian Community Transport Services, Kim Ward.
Hello everybody, thank you for having me. Quite nervous, so please bear with me. You will notice I'm not an Edinburgh native. I'm actually from 3 miles down the road in a lovely area called Gorton. I'm sure everybody who knows it will agree with me. I currently lead the team at Lothian Community Transport. I didn't realise I'd be coming straight after Sarah. It's not an Edinburgh takeover, I promise. I've been in my position for 18 months now. And prior to that, there had never been a female senior manager in the team. So this gobby English woman who was in her 30s at the time walks into an organisation full of white men, aged 16 over, and they loved me. I also have a background in women and girls organisations. So as Anne-Marie was saying, I definitely had the what on earth do you know about transport? And even to this day, it's something that the staff love to catch me out on, that I don't know the specifics of a bus. I do know now know the difference between a section 19 and a section 22, and it is as boring as it sounds. When I worked, Caroline. When I worked in the girls and women's sector, it was incredibly difficult. If you think that getting funding in transport can be difficult, then getting funding for girls and women, which were always considered nice to haves rather than needs to haves, are incredibly difficult. An example would be some funding that we tried to get for better street lighting in an area in the northeast. We eventually got it, but we got it through 18 months of campaigning for that work. So why does diverse workforce matter? Well, across the transport sector, how can we accurately say we are representative of our community if we don't include all of that community within our workforce? Directly quoting my 61-year-old male white colleague, friend and ally, community transport is male, pale, stale. We are talking specifically about women today, and for that, and for me, that means we need to talk about intersectionality. So I would challenge you within your own organisations to ask, where are the women of colour? Where are the women with a disability? Where are the gay and queer women? And how are they represented in your organisations? There is a way to go. I work in Scotland, and so I can appreciate that in many areas it will be better than it is where I work. However, I've been asked to speak a few times at events over the past 18 months, and I have wondered if that is to balance out the gender representation. What I can say is that at those events, there is very rarely a person of colour speaking. There is very rarely a person with a disability speaking. There is very rarely anything about gay or queer people on that agenda. And it's something that I think, as an industry, we need to do better. Women, we know what it's like to be the minority group, so we can be allies for all marginalised groups. So when I was wondering how I was going to speak today, I came across this slide when I was in London post on the tube a couple of weeks ago. I do believe that perhaps the person who got a blue plaque, the person who's no longer with us, is talked about here. I heard Tom from TfL do a speech about 6 months ago, and he talked about all of the work that TfL are doing, and it was really inspiring actually to hear organisations are putting this at the forefront of their priority list. However, this slide says that 5% of women in TfL, of women nationally, compared to 14% in TfL, are working as operators. So we had the 10% figure quite a lot throughout the day. It's 5% operationally according to this. I think that if women are making up 51% of the national population, then 5% of operational staff is just not good enough. So who is the average woman? Well, the average woman, I'm hoping you'll understand, doesn't really exist. I won't make anyone start to stand up and we can all judge whether they're the average woman as per Kerri's average driver. We do know there's lots of broad brush descriptions that can be applied. So women can be carers, women can be mothers, women can be full-time workers, just in the same way that roles apply to men. Women, however, are more likely to have experienced sexual assault. They're more likely to have experienced verbal abuse. They're more likely to experience domestic abuse. And this abuse is more likely to come from a man than it is for a woman. When we consider that there is 95% of men working in the transport sector in operational roles, how can we encourage women into this predominantly male sector and ensure that they feel safe? Why would a woman want a career in transport? Well, as someone who thinks that everyone deserves a fair crack of the whip, I think that the transport sector is an exciting one to be in right now. This event tells us that people are prioritising women in the transport industry. I can say with some certainty that I am doing as much in my current role as I have done in previous roles, which were women and girl specific industries. Our organisation has gone from 22% workforce being female to 41% in the time that I have been with LCTS. Sorry, it's really difficult to do this from my phone. I've come across incredible women within the sector, and I believe that there is lots of reasons you would want to work in this sector. So, for example, that there's a huge opportunity for personal, professional growth. There is the opportunity to have immediate and visible impact and make a real difference to people's lives. And there is the opportunity to make a long-lasting difference for women and underrepresented groups in the future. What are some of the solutions to the challenges? Well, I know that some people who work in transport love buses, the physical buses, and they love coaches. But I don't think that transport is seen as a sexy industry, and we may have some work to go on that. For example, if I asked a group of school leavers if they want to work in advertising, management, training or transport, I think that transport may likely fall to the bottom of the pile. And yet all of those roles exist within transport. We need to get better at selling ourselves as an industry that is an exciting one. I've been pleasantly surprised during my time that there seems to be a healthy level of middle and senior women managers present in community transport. But it seems that often where there is a male manager, they've worked their way up. They started operationally and ended up in a senior role, whereas women seem to come from outside the transport sector. And so I ask, in community transport specifically, do women need to prove their worth through qualifications, whilst we trust that men know how to do their roles because they understand transport? I would suggest that there's a possibility that women don't progress into management roles because there are so few women in operational roles. And if there's any charity funders in the room today, perhaps consider funding some training. It's always worth trying to get some money out of everybody. I think as a sector we could do more to encourage women by offering flexible working. I appreciate the difficulties around that when it's operational, but it can exist and does exist if you want it to exist. Can we consider shift working that allows us to give people the opportunity to work off-peak or only on one part of the peak time of the day? It's not just women that would benefit from this. Can we consider term time working? Society expects women to be the primary caregivers whilst working for minimum wage and paying childcare costs or carer costs. There is little to suggest that the government are looking to resolve this issue currently. I think they've got quite a lot on the plate. And so as employers, we need to consider how we can help. For the roles that aren't operational, could we offer remote or hybrid working as an option? I physically wouldn't do my role unless there was hybrid working available. As previously mentioned, do we consider if women feel safe in such a male-dominated workspace? Are you asking your staff when sending out your staff surveys? It would be remiss of me to not mention that whilst women working in transport figures are low, the amount of women travelling by bus is significantly higher. In 2020, DfT statistics show that over a third more women made bus journeys compared to men. Therefore, their voices need to be recognised. A final solution to the challenges that we face in community transport in attracting to women to the sector is perhaps the most obviously overlooked solution, which is collaboration. In community transport, we don't have the budgets for marketing. We don't have staff specifically in EDI roles, but we do have access to stakeholders. We have direct passenger voice. And we would love to share that information with other people who work within the transport sector so that we can genuinely benefit women and not just the women who work for us or the passengers we serve. Events like today are amazing and they are a celebration of all that is good. What will your organisation do after this event to follow up and work with organisations like mine? Thank you very much. Sorry about all the tech problems.
Thank you, Kim. We are now going to focus on engineering and apprenticeships and do this one in a slightly different way. So I'm going to invite the 4 participants up to the stage. You know who you are, and you're going to introduce yourselves. Oh, claps as they come up. Brilliant. We are going to take questions from the floor on this, so please be prepared. Okay, Liz, you want to start us off and introduce yourself?
Is this working? Yes. Hi, my name's Liz Eades. I'm a workshop manager for Stagecoach down in Dover, Kent.
And what's your career progression? How did you get to be there?
I started off as a local bus driver, and then I started doing National Express. But way before that, I was in the armed forces as a mechanic. I had squeaky voice. I gained only level 2. So when the guys in the bus garage found out about my background in the engineering, they said, why not give it a shot? So I went and spoke to the engineering manager, answered a few questions. He said, brilliant, fancy a job. So I transferred from being a driver to engineering, and Stagecoach put me through my level 3. So I did that for about 5 years. And then I progressed to workshop manager.
I'm Hannah Currie. I work for Wright Bus. Hannah Currie from Wright Bus. I'm a manufacturing technician, so I started as a level 3 apprentice doing coach building, built the buses, and then the opportunity came across that I could apply to go into the engineering side and do the problem solving and helping with the builds. So I applied, got the job, and now they're putting me through my foundation degree in engineering.
And Lucy, you've got a slightly different background. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Can I be heard? Yeah. So I'm Lucy Hough. So I work for Firth Bus. I'm their maintenance and reliability engineer. So I work centrally with them for fleet reliability issues and trying to move us towards a reliability-centred approach in our maintenance. But I've only been in bus for 2 years. Prior to that, I worked in oil and gas, mainly the North Sea, on oil rigs out there, and then I have a law degree, so absolutely in no way transport. I don't know how I got here. It's nice to be here.
I'm Alex. I work at Grays VD Coaches. I've been there about 18 months. I came in as a workshop planner and administrator. Previous to that, I did 13 years in hospitality, so no transport except for transporting food from the kitchen to a table. So, yeah.
Okay, so what skills do you think as a woman you bring to your workplace? Because I think, I'm just going to spoil that. Several of you will have seen, I'm sure, the webinar that was done with at least 2 of you, Alex and Lucy. And so I don't want to repeat that, but if you do have any questions maybe that came from that webinar, we'd really like to take those as well. But I think let's talk soft skills, what you bring to your workplace.
I think from my background, because I did 10 years in 10 minutes, 10 years in senior manager roles in my previous job. So leadership was a key one. I'm quite a good communicator with my team, but I'm a very big people person, and I find motivating and inspiring your team is one of the biggest skills you can have as a person. And when you're in a workshop with 3 very boisterous men, you need to be able to hold your own and make them do what you want to do, necessarily not what they think they should be doing. So I think motivating them for us all to be on the same spreadsheet, all same goal at the end of the day, make sure our buses are safe and going out the door in a timely manner for the operations team is really key. So,
Lucy, do you have anything to add to that? Any skills that you feel you bring?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the technical skills, but you have a lot of colleagues, both male and female, that have those. And I think for me, communication is key. Engineers, we tend to get wrapped as possibly not the best communicators. We're nice linear thinkers, don't like to talk. So I think as a woman, I'm a decent enough communicator. So I think I like to bring that. So it's, if you have a problem or you found a solution, it's no good unless you can tell the team, unless you can tell the guy who's doing the job or the girl that's doing the job. So I think communication is one skill I'm trying to develop, but it's something I'm good at as a woman.
Hannah, can I ask you, the culture where you work, how has that been? How has it affected your work experience?
The culture in my boss is actually really, really supportive. Anytime I've ever had a problem, I've been straight down to some of the boys that maybe I have had a question that I couldn't understand where an issue was coming from, and they explained it to me. And like, even the development in room with the managers and stuff, like, I haven't been in a company that I've been able to turn around and say, I need help, and I've got that.
Would you recommend your job or the industry to other women, and do you?
100%. There's so much to learn in the entire industry, as all these girls are coming from different areas. There's more than just the engineering side, but going through the engineering side, there's stuff that I picked up building buses that I've been like, oh, I can fix that in my car.
Liz, I didn't know you come from a military background, and I know that there's a sort of challenge of getting other women in. So do you think? Oh, here we go. So do you think that you could be sort of like a trailblazer and point the direction to others who've come from a similar background to you?
Definitely. Obviously, there's many women, and I think the women in the armed forces, there's a lot more there than there is actually in civilian life, doing more male-orientated jobs. So that's definitely a place to look. But I think we're lacking in finding feminine females. There's lots of me and that will find this job, tomboys. But actually, there's lots of females out there, feminine females, that don't realise that engineering is possible for them, and they won't be looking for it. So I think that's where we really, really need to head down that road.
Have any of you seen really good recruitment campaigns that have worked and have got women into your industry, or the ones that got you in?
I think.
Hello?
I think you have to put it really close. For me personally, it was seeing bits in the advertisement that I felt like I could contribute to. So I necessarily didn't have the engineering background, but through managing, and it was a scheduling, planning, ordering parts, and the operational side of the workshop was what that job initially was when I first took it on. And that's essentially what I did for 10 years. I was building rotors, ordering food, ordering stuff for the bar. I was doing KPIs and business plans and P&Ls, and it was all things that I was already doing. And although I didn't have the engineering mindset, I felt like I could still contribute and I could build on that. And if you have the right people above you, so the managing director Richard and the operations director Ella, are really supportive in the person, and they'll employ the right person, even if they don't necessarily have the qualifications, if they know they can mould that person to how they want to be. And I saw that advertisement and thought there's parts of that I could contribute to, and the rest of it I will sink or swim on. I will learn it, and it will work out, and it will be great, or I won't, and it won't be for me. And it obviously ended up in the right path, because then I become workshop supervisor at the start of the year because I progressed, and that was with their support. So it's not necessarily looking in the jobs at what could you do, and making it so you're looking at bits that you can contribute to, and not necessarily being like, what are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves, essentially, in the advertisement. And for their advertisement, for me, it just struck a chord that I felt like I could contribute and not worry about the engineering side of it.
Does anybody else want to, your experience in being recruited? I'm going to open to the room. Does anybody have any questions? I'm quite happy to run around with a microphone. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, I'll just carry on. What elements of the job, I'll go across to Hannah if I may, because she's terrified. What elements of the job do you enjoy most?
Watching the bus leave at the end of the day, knowing. Yeah, but the thing is, whenever it leaves the production line and it runs, it works, it's how it should be, and it had a problem further, like before that, and I fixed it.
So it's the satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's the job satisfaction.
Completely.
Uh-huh. And Liz, what do you think what gives you the biggest kick?
Pretty similar, obviously fixing something and seeing it work at the end after being broken. But I like the guys. They're great to work with. It's good banter. I like the fact that it's new stuff coming through all the time. It's a massive, we're changing, we're going from old buses to new buses, we've got electrics coming through, we've got hybrids, hydrogen, it is an exciting time to be engineering.
And it sounds like you work as a member of a team.
Yeah.
And that team's important to you?
Yeah, massively. They're what make the buses go out. They're my bees.
Hannah, are you part of it? You must be part of a team.
Yeah.
A big team.
Not as big as what we would like, but we're getting there.
Okay.
More recruitment, hopefully more girls, because I'm the only one in the office currently. But no, we all work as a team, and even whenever working with the boys and the operators on the shop floor, you work together to get something sorted every time.
And Lucy, you're in a management role more than a team role, am I right?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. So I work as part of the central team, but we're all on Zoom all over the country. And then when I do the problem solving, I go into a depot and work with those teams. So I enjoy the variety of who I'm working with. But yeah, two different teams, but essentially alone in my own job.
So are you hybrid working? Are you in an office? Are you sitting at home working?
I'd say it's about 50-50 at home and then on the road. And then I'd say most of the on-the-road stuff is in the depot, so it's problem solving. So half of the job is strategy, but half of it is we have an issue, how can we resolve it? And then replicate that solution in other places, because we tend to get a bit siloed. Depots might solve one problem, say in Scotland, but down in the southeast they've got the same problem. So it's helping them identify and share those learnings. So about 50-50, dirty clean, as I like to see it. I've ruined many a shirt, because I turn up thinking it's going to be a clean situation, like just get onto this bus and just have a look at this. So a bit of a mix, but it's good.
You've had quite a career progression, I'll come to you next, from law to oil and gas to this. Do you feel that you've brought stuff with you as you go, or are you more learning in a new role?
I think I'm probably always learning. I think that's probably the healthiest place to be. Law was just university. I think I was one of those people that first to go to university in my family, and you follow that, you're pushed into that, don't pick up the STEM, stay in an office, get out of overalls was my dad's mantra. But I am from a long line of engineers, but they're not women. So I think I just naturally fell afterwards and felt that job or that industry didn't suit me. So to retrain and become an engineer was really powerful, but it took 10 years to do it. So it's always learning. Always.
Lovely to hear the word powerful. You were...
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm from Apollo Vehicle Safety. I wondered if each of you could think of the one small thing that would improve your organisation and get another women engineer or bus person into the industry. Just one small thing to make a small change.
As in how to get girls or women into the industry. I think it's massively how we advertise. I think if how we change who we're looking at and how we advertise for it would get, if we change it to a more feminine way, I think we'd get a lot more girls coming through.
I would say the advertising for us as well, but it's also showing the progression that you, like, it doesn't, like, we do a lot of advertising for like female apprentices, but it doesn't show that we can go into purchasing, we can go into a different role within that place. So it's probably highlighting the different progression plans, that you're not just stuck on the shop floor.
Yeah, advertising's a big one. And I think in that advertising is advocate for what you're doing culturally. I know First, they've got some allyship programs, there's mentorship programs, there's a lot that we are doing to change, but put that in the advert so that woman knows that when she does come through the door, she'll be supported, if not by someone that is exactly like her, someone who might be working parallel to her. And she's got someone that she knows she can support her throughout it.
Yeah, I think shouting about the women in the business. I work in an office with 5 women, and we all hold very, big positions and a lot of responsibility in there. But actually, I think the schools offering work experience for the high schools especially. We had a young lady actually do work experience with us at Grays over the summer because she wanted to come to an office environment. But with that, she was helping me in the workshop. She was helping Hannah in compliance, helping with operations. She was making calls to customers to ask about their experience with Grays and, what could we do better. And she might not have gone in the outset to go into transport, but through her choosing to come to Grace for her work experience over the summer and before she left school, she got thrown into the world of coaches. And after that work experience, she then asked if she could come back for summer. She actively come to us and said, can I come back for 6 weeks and work with you all, because I had such a good time last time. And I think from when she left, she will come back continuously on those times outside of college, because she enjoyed her time learning the way the coaches were working and our industry. She really enjoyed it, and that was really positive. So I think actually getting into the schools more and offering what we have to offer in the bus and coach world, and showing them actually it is actually quite fun and interesting if you just give it a chance. And I remember in school I didn't have that option. I don't remember seeing like a bus or coach company in that work experience list when you go and choose what you want to do. And I think if we're going actively into our local schools, we've got one around the corner from us, are we going down the street to those schools and saying, you know, can you offer this, you know, as an option for the children for their work experience? I think that'd be really key. If we did that more, we actually might find more young people coming through the ranks.
Hi, I'm Caroline from Community Transport Association. So in our industry, in our part of the industry, we don't often have a lot of employed engineers anyway, so we definitely don't have a lot of women within that. If we as an organisation were going to try and encourage more apprenticeships and more women into engineering, what would be the key thing that you think we would need to include in the kind of initial training, in the initial induction, something that really kept you in your job, that if someone was designing a new programme, what would you say was the most important thing to have in it?
Alex, I'm going to go to you because you look like you're thinking hard. You've got a microphone as well.
I think you have to have the adaptability of those people. I think everyone learns very differently going into certain roles and jobs, and how I would necessarily learn and widen my knowledge isn't the same way as maybe the engineers that I work with would. And I think if you've got someone conducting that course in a way that fits for a lot of people, and there's a lot of time involved, and they build it in a way where people can easily understand, and it makes it quite a nice open conversation in those sessions. I mean, I can take the theory training I've been doing for learning to drive a coach. I did a week of theory training with the operations director and an engineer. It was a really nice week of just learning but open conversation. There was no fear to ask questions, there was no stupid questions, you know, and we were testing each other, and it was a nice relaxed group of people just learning what do we need to do to pass our theory test. And for me, that was, for it not to be a classroom setting, was huge for me, because I don't thrive in those situations. I thrive more in a relaxed, can I just openly talk, can I openly ask questions, can we expand on what we're talking about? For me, that's quite key.
I think that you need to get girls on their own. Take the boys out the classroom, take the girls, because a lot of time as girls we think, and we have the boys saying, you can't do that, and actually they can. And I think if you let girls do it and they realise they can do it, they'll then want to do it. But I think they're sitting at schools and being told, I mean, I did in DT, what are you doing in here? Why are you doing this? I think they need to feel comfortable and able, and then when they start realising, actually, I can do this, and they're not told by other girls or other guys, why are you doing it? I think we need to really, really try and focus on telling them that you can, and showing them, like you say, get a classroom, get girls aside, give them a go, take that engine apart, you know, actually show that they can do it.
Just one small thing I would add to that, and some of the speakers hit on it this morning, is the facilities. So a lot of what we have was built before women were in the workplace, but I've come to a depot to work on something, there's nowhere for me to wash my hands. And then if you've got a 17-year-old girl, 18-year-old girl, she maybe finished her apprenticeship and she's got unisex coveralls on. The shoulders are really big, it's pinching her around the waist, the sleeves are really long. She feels, well, I felt out of place. You're like, I already don't fit because what I've got on doesn't fit. It doesn't fit me like the boys do. So I think just the small things around female coveralls, not unisex boots, women's boots, smaller gloves. They can all just be really small things that just make you feel like you do belong because you look like you belong.
Hannah, have you got anything to add?
No, I'm pretty sure they all covered everything. It's probably a wee bit of support. Like, they know they can't turn to someone just in that moment that maybe it does scare them a wee bit walking into something like that. Just wee bit of support always helps.
Okay, we're going to the back for another question. Thank you.
Hi there. I think you may have covered a little bit of this already, but just to expand on that question about making things 1% better, which I'm going to talk about a bit later on actually. But you specifically in your jobs, what either has been the thing that has made you and your job even better, or what is the one thing that would happen or could happen that would make your job even better? It may have happened already.
I mean, I'm quite a confident person in an environment where I'm very comfortable, and being in a workshop I'm very comfortable in that environment. I'm quite boisterous and loud, and I'm quite fearless with the engineers. I'm not afraid to go in there and tell them. But the people at Grays is what really makes it for me. There's a really big support network in the office, and the engineers, they take their time to explain things to me because I don't have an engineering background, and that people element is huge for me, and that's what makes me feel comfortable to challenge them. They might think I don't know exactly what they're saying, but I will ask why. You know, why do we need to do this? Why is that happening? How does that work? How have we got from A to B? And they're very patient, very supportive, and that's what makes it good for me. That's what makes this job fun for me. I can comfortably learn and not feel silly or stupid because I don't know what they're talking about. You know, when I find a part on a diagram I don't really know what I'm looking at, but I'll take it through and go, is it number 10? And they're like, yeah, that little bit of satisfaction, and to not feel judged by them for that is what makes it. It's the people at Grays that make it for me, 100%.
That's a good question. I had a ponder. I don't think it has anything to do with being a woman, more to do with being an engineer, and I don't know if you find this, but sharing technical information or just generally communication in bus seems to be not what we do. I don't know. In oil and gas, you have drawings. It was all very strict. It was all very regulated, and I feel like, I don't know if that's quite come over to bus and coach yet, but I would like to have more technical information shared and open, and maybe a bit of conversation between different operators around the problems you're having, because we're all suffering. And everyone mentions reliability at the stop of this. Every speaker's had it in their talk, but you can't get a service if the bus doesn't run. And so often our engineers are suffering in isolation with their own issues. It'd be really great if we could share that, but it's less of a woman thing and more of an industry thing.
I have another question down here.
It's so nice to hear you've all had such a positive experience, and it's nice to meet some formidable engineers. But just to keep it real, and I don't know who wants to answer this question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there any barriers that you faced that you wouldn't want other subsections of our community not to face? What advice would you give, or sorry, it's a bit of a loaded question. What barriers have you faced, if any at all?
Loads. I found when I took over as a workshop manager that when people come in to ask questions, or like from the outside that didn't know me, they would go straight to the bloke in the office. They would bypass me, and it took quite a few, probably a year or so, before the guys would actually go, no, you don't want to talk to me, you want to talk to her. So that's quite a big barrier. Of course, obviously, then you've got to say, no, excuse me, it's me you want to talk to. Makes you feel a bit silly sometimes. That's one big barrier that obviously you had to overcome. But the guys have helped by obviously going, no, do you know what? It is her. That's who you talk to. Blah, blah, blah.
A barrier for me probably would be getting talked down to. A lot of ones starting fresh, like on the shop floor even, they'll see a young girl running about with a notebook. We take measure and think, she doesn't really know anything. And like, I'll try and they'll have a problem. I'll come up with a solution, and they'll be like, "Would you not be better checking that with someone else?" And it's until I actually go and physically prove it, measure it out, and do it for them, and then they're like, "Okay, maybe you're right." That's a big barrier for me. It's just people seeing me as a young girl.
That's a barrier in itself. I'm sure, obviously, most of the ladies here have had it, where they, as a female, you have to prove yourself in the job. You can't be rubbish at the job. You have to be better, almost, than them. You can have a rubbish guy as a rubbish bus driver or a rubbish engineer, and that's acceptable. But if you're a girl, you can't be pants. You've got to be good. And that's a hard act to, and you have to keep it up, and that's really hard.
I resonate the exact same. Often, if contractors are coming in, if people are on the phone, I mean, I've had a company even say to me, "Can you just put the engineer on the phone?" I'm like, "No, you can tell me and I'll translate. It's fine. I might not necessarily understand everything that's happening, but there's a notebook, there's a pen. I'll go through and word for word say, this is what this man said, and we will have that conversation with the engineer, so I then understand what he is telling me. But I've had to be quite pushed back, quite fearless with it and say, like, no, I'm the person you need to speak to. We have people who will ring in and specifically asked for Richard, because they know Richard. And he's really good at pushing back, going, no, Alex is the person you need to speak to. I'll transfer you through, or here's her number, call her. And he's very, very good with that. And my name is a barrier in itself, because everyone just assumes I'm a man. Via email, it's great, because they literally don't know it until I answer the phone. And they're like, is he there? And I'm like, I am she. So my name in itself is a barrier, but it's an enjoyment I get when I have to correct people.
Lucy, any barriers in particular?
I think it's very much the same. I've finished some seal fitting training, and someone patted me on the head and said, "Oh, you've done really well there." And you're like, okay. So there's those moments. But I think I've had meetings even now, and you go in and you're the subject matter expert, you're the person who's talking, and they will talk to my male colleagues, and some phenomenal allies in my team that are just like, no, you need to speak to her about this. But it just takes time and patience, I think, and a lot of other women to look up to and get advice from, and forums like this to talk about. But I would say, yeah, that, and then just the physical barriers. So, I mean, for me, there isn't always a female toilet, and I'm not always familiar with the depot I'm going to. So if I'm like, I am dirty or I want to get changed, I don't know where to go. And more often than not, ladies' toilets are on the clean side of the depot. So then you don't want to have to walk through, and then you're not allowed to come in here with those boots on. You're like, yeah, but I need to use the bathroom. So there are some physical barriers, and it's not just bus, oil and gas is the same.
We have a question from the back, I believe.
Hi, I'm Lorna. I'm looking to know if you have a good example or accomplishment of how you've turned someone's mindset around you, particularly probably a man, and how you've made them sort of see you in a different light. Great conversation, by the way.
Has anybody turned?
I think that's just by actually completing a job. I've had times where, they've gone, you're not going to be able to do that, or you're not going to be able to pick that up. And yeah, I've gone and done it. And it does change their mind, but that goes back to, you feel like you have to prove yourself all the time. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the minute.
Anything? Yeah, mine's the same. I think just being in my position, I have to constantly prove. It's literally the same, basically.
Lucy, you always look like you're really in deep thought.
I don't think anyone likes me. I'm just thinking about who I've turned around. But I think tea breaks and conversation points are really great points to get to know people. We're all human. That man will have a woman in his life somewhere. He's somebody's son. But he'll probably have a wife and possibly daughters and whomever in his life. And it's just relating to him on that level. It's same with relating to any human being, but it's just not siloing yourself. I think I've probably been a big promoter of conversation, small talk. I use humor a lot, which is really good. But I think if someone's not going to like me, I think I have to accept that. I can't change his mind. I'm not going to put my effort into that. I'm just going to put my effort into doing the best job I can do, and leave his revelings to himself.
Hannah, have you had any moments where you've turned somebody's mind?
There's been a few moments, yes, but it's literally just been out to prove a point. Like, as Liz says, like, you go out your way to prove that you can do something whenever they tell you can't. That's the way it is.
Right, we have time for one last question if there's another question in the room. Yep, okay.
Hi, I'm Evie from Transport for London. Thank you for having such an honest and open conversation about your career so far. I just wondered where you see your careers progressing over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, I think in my role, it'll probably take that time to learn everything in engineering. But honestly, it's just, I actually just want to learn anything and everything there is. It amazes me what we find in coaches, what we can do. I love where we go. The operational and compliance side of it baffles my mind often, but it's what interests me in finding out how to do that role. And I think it's just, for me at the moment, it's excelling in the engineering side, supporting the engineers and progressing in my knowledge. I think I dabble in operations and compliance already a little bit through my role in the office, just through supporting my colleagues. But I'll most likely still be in coach in that time. I have no plans to leave it. I'm really enjoying my journey at the moment. So.
But it's my job to make buses more reliable, so I'd like to think I've got a job for at least 5 years, possibly a bit longer. But I don't know. I think I'll probably still be in the same role because it's a culture change. We're trying to do it first, and it takes time. It takes time to change, as some of our speakers this morning have talked about. So I can still see myself doing what I do. As Liz has touched on, we've got hydrogen. Well, we've got hydrogen in. We've got a lot of EVs, and it's changing all the time. So keeping that and keeping on top with the technology and keeping on top with how we maintain the fleet is going to be my bread and butter for a long time, I think, and it's really enjoyable. Well, as long as that change continues, I think I'll always be interested in what we've got going on. So it's good.
Well, I'm hoping to actually progress to be an engineer because I'm not at that stage, but I'm getting there, and I'm hoping to obviously finish my qualifications and that, and then within the company, I want to be able to work my way up within that company. I want to be able to support every step of the way and take it from, so obviously design and manufacture would be a wee bit of split. I want to be able to feed that back so it makes it easier for the operators to actually build the buses, to make it faster, to make it more efficient, to make it more reliable when it does hit the road, to solve as many problems as possible that way and make it easier for everybody. I just want to make it life easy for the shop floor because it makes my life easy.
Yeah, well, I'd love to carry on and become engineering manager over the next 5-10 years. That'd be great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Can you give them a massive round of applause? Someone will come and find your microphones. Thank you very much, all 4 of you. It is lunchtime. A couple of things you need to know. Lunch is being served. It's the restaurant which is to the right of the reception area. There will not be enough seating for everyone. So please feel free to bring, if you can't get a seat in there, to bring your food back to the area outside where we are now, where you're having coffee earlier. I think we're giving you about an hour. Please feel free to network, to enjoy the day, and we will see you again this afternoon. Thank you.